I want to say one thing about multitasking, because when we're talking about this balance between resources and demands, this whole myth of the multitasking generation, kids do multitask. You can't focus on more than one thing at a time. Those are kids who are switching rather than doing two things at a time. When you're trying to focus on two things, your resources go down and the demand gets more. So we need to help kids who are able to focus, able to regulate, have high executive function. That's part of their affect as well, how they approach a thing. So affect matters. When a kid comes into the classroom and says, I can't do math, I'm terrible at math, what's the point? That matters in how we approach moving them forward. Okay, so here it is. What you're born with, your informal experiences, your formal instruction, and your attitude determine who you are as a math learner. The kids we get in the classroom, who come into our school, this combination of variables helps define them. And it's important for us to understand those things. We work hard to understand that, looking at the research, what is it about these kids, what defines them? Because now we want to move them somewhere. So what do we do to help move them forward? One, we got to evaluate. We have to look and understand, where is this kid? And evaluating them is not that simple. We got to layer that. So you take, here's an example. We've been working with kids on a fraction program. John will talk about it in a minute. So you look at this kid here and it's like, wow, isn't that beautiful? Look at the way they set this up. 6 and 7/10 minus 4 and 3/10. They have the whole numbers here. On one side, 6 minus 4, 7/10 minus 3/10. They got it. 2 and 4/10. They can do it. Isn't that beautiful? That kid, same kid, 3 and 5/8 minus 1 and 7/8. Look at that. 3 minus 1 is 2. 5/8 minus 7/8 is 2/8. We got to dig. You got to dig. There are lots of false positives in this world. So we have to target our assessments at the, and you can't do this, you can't drill down at a high level. So you use we talk about layering assessments, using a broad assessment to indicate who are the kids that we want to drill down with, and then you got to drill down and look at what the real issues are. And we want to drill down in the most critical areas and understand what's going on. With these kids, we often found that they had a problem. This was not a procedural problem. This was when you drilled down, this was a lack of fundamental understanding. They had learned a procedure but no meaning with it. And so we had to get to the meaning part of it. So we have to evaluate our kids. We have to then help them connect with what they already know. Concrete to abstract. What do they know? What are their informal experiences? Connecting those to the more generalizable math we want to know. And so we want to connect this way, and we want to connect this way. What I learned here, sorry, you're going this way. What I learned here is related to what I'm learning here, and that's what I'm learning here. So at any one point, I'm not learning all that much new. I'm building on what I already know. When we do this sort of Swiss cheese metaphor, where it's kind of like we just got to find the holes and fill them in, it only works if we're filling them in with the same material the rest of that cheese is built out of. You can't put in cheddar and Swiss. It doesn't work. It all has to feel coherent to the kids. So it's very important to build on or to rebuild. Plugging holes with different materials does not stick. It will fall apart. Because then, and it's also a cognitive load issue, because all I'm doing is teaching kids more stuff rather than helping them connect to the network that's already there. We have to differentiate. And this is a place where technology is really, really powerful. We can adapt. In this space of balancing resources and demands, we can adjust both of those. So computer technology can alter the complexity and the rigor of the demand. Boy, this is too demanding. Let's give them something a little simpler. Let's make it a little more complex. We can also vary the resources available, the kind of scaffolds that we give kids, so that, and we can begin to diminish those, so we can get kids to be more independent. So we want to keep them in balance. It is very compelling to keep kids in their zone of proximal development. It's very satisfying. It is chemically satisfying to tackle a challenge that you can do. When you have a challenge and you succeed, this is when, there's chemicals in your brain that is like, it's drugs. It's not like drugs, it's drugs, and it feels good. That builds perseverance, which is really what we're after. Kids coming back and doing it again and again and again. But we have to differentiate it to keep kids at the appropriate challenge level. And then finally, we have to value what kids are doing. We need to value effort. This is one thing that's becomes so clear in how we use praise here. We want to praise what you say is you praise the task, not the kid. So instead of saying you're so smart, which means, oh, I'm so smart, I'm naturally that way, you want to focus on, that was a great effort. Now my son, the poor kid, this research, when I was unraveling this research a few years ago, he stopped from being a smart kid. He's right now, he's at Yale, looking at Yale. He's choosing between Yale and Harvard going to school. So he's a smart kid. But the whole thing became, you work hard. And he does. He works very hard. And focusing on the hard work and valuing the work that gets him there is what it's all about.